Hello, my name's Piers, Torday, and I'm the author of The Last Wild, amongst other books, and I'm reading out a chapter a day while the schools are shut during the corona crisis. And today we're reading chapter 3, and the story so far, you can catch up with the other videos, but we're following Kester Janes, who is stuck at a horrid school called Spectrum Hall for reasons he doesn't understand, in a strange version of Britain where there are no more animals. They've nearly all been killed by a virus. All, not quite all, because Kester thinks he can talk to a cockroach, but just by touching this cockroach, he's of course contravened the rules of his quarantine, and he's been sent to the headmaster of this school, Dr. Fredericks, and is in trouble. There are some places you aren't ever allowed into without being asked first. The doctor's rooms are different to the hall. They don't have glass walls to look at the see-through. They're underground and you have to enter a special code in the lift to get there. The lift opens onto a long white corridor like in a hospital. There are rooms off either side and the whole place stinks of toilet cleaner. This room is clean and bare, almost empty apart from a plastic chair in front of a desk and a sink in the corner. On the wall behind the desk there is a picture of Selwyn Stone. A picture I found myself staring at many times before. He has such a strange face, something weird about it that I can't explain, like he doesn't look quite real, apart from his eyes which stare straight through you, seeing everything. I look away. The thing you notice most about the rooms once the lift has beeped shut again and the wardens have turned the lights off behind them is that there's almost no noise. There are no screams and shouts from the yard, just every now and then the squeak of rubber shoes along the corridor outside. I know it's only me down here, sat on a plastic chair facing an empty desk, but you hear things in the quiet, you see. The sound of something shifting its weight on the ceiling above, or a gust of air that could so easily be a breath. Then, out of the corner of your eye, a shadow seems to bend and slide along the floor, a shadow with 8 legs. Another varmint. A black spider tapping about. I hate spiders. How it got in here, the most sterilised part of the whole hall, I don't know. I just sit still, count to 10 and hope it doesn't come near me. When I get out, I'll tell Dad about the doctor's rooms, how they leave you there all on your own in the dark for hours just to wind you up. You can't admit you're afraid of the dark here because that makes you a wuss, but I am. If Dad knew, he'd never allow it. I know he wouldn't. It was raining that night. Raining a lot. Hitting the windows in noisy splats. It wasn't properly dark because of the moon. I was woken up by a strange sound from downstairs. I still remember how the toys on my shelf looked cross, with the shadows of the raindrops flicking across them as I turned on the light to make the darkness go away. For a moment, everything in my room, the clothes in a mess on the floor, the toys on the shelf, they all looked normal and happy. But then I heard the door downstairs ripping open. I got out of bed to go and get Dad. The landing was pitch black and I couldn't find the light switch. The door ripped again and I wanted to cry out for him, but I couldn't. I knew I'd have to go into his room to wake him up by shaking his shoulder. Perhaps he just left the door open, I thought, and started to go down the stairs extra quietly so as not to disturb him. I got halfway down when I heard a whispering noise that came in with the wind, blowing across my face and making my cheeks cold. The door was definitely open. At the bottom of the stairs, I tiptoed across to shut it. I turned around and started to go back. There was a squeak on the floor behind me. I looked back and the door had come open again. This time there was a man standing there in the doorway. I couldn't see his face because of the darkness. I felt more frightened than I had ever felt in my entire life. "Kester Janes," he said quietly. I nodded, not knowing what else to do. "You're coming with me." A noise in my head snaps me back to the present. Not the metallic rasping I heard in the yard, more a high-pitched whistle, like a boiling kettle, a whistle that seems to contain words at the same time. There is no one else down here. I shake my head as if the noise was a buzzing fly, but it doesn't go away. And I force myself to look at the spider, sitting calmly on the floor, every one of its 8 eyes watching me. The whistling gets louder and louder in my head as if the kettle is about to explode, until the ear-piercing shriek begins to slowly form into a word floating and twisting inside my mind. Listen. So I do, but all I can hear is the slap-slap of sandals coming down the corridor and the door sliding open while the spider scuttles back into the shadows and squeezes through a super-thin crack into the wall. I think I'm beginning to go mad. They said this would happen if I didn't talk to anyone, that I would start making stuff up. Imaginary friends. Dr. Fredericks turns on an overhead lamp, shining it right in my face. I squirm away from the blinding light towards the floor, trying not to look at his chipped toenails. He doesn't say anything like hello or how are you today. He's called a doctor, but he isn't the kind of doctor who makes you stick your tongue out and puts a cold stethoscope on your chest. He does wear a white coat, it's true, but that's the only doctorish thing about him. I catch a whiff of blackcurrant. The pockets of the doctor's white coat are always full of blackcurrant cough sweets, and there's always one in his mouth. He turns on the tap in the corner and begins to scrub his hands. Name? He says, his mouth full of lozenge. He knows I can't speak. He knows. Name? He says again. I just look blankly at him. Dr. Fredericks sighs. James, Kester, you were seen handling a varmint in the yard. He's drying his hands on a sheet of paper towel. I know what's coming, but I don't care. The cockroach doesn't have the virus. The cockroach is my friend. It tried to speak to me. I think. Did you not handle a restricted insect, young man? I stare straight ahead. A bristly hand knocks me round the back of the neck. I continue to stare straight ahead, trying not to wince. The doctor sighs and sits down behind his desk, like he's still waiting for me to say something. After what feels like forever, he gives a long, drawn-out breath and begins to pick at his nails, still not looking at me. His voice is softer this time, trying to sound casual. Do you know why you're here, Kester? Haven't you ever wondered? I can't help but smile and shake my head. I'm not going to show him that I care. The less you give away in here, the better. He waves his hand crossly at the world above our heads. Do you think all of this is a joke? The quarantine zone, the glass roofs? Do you think Mr. Stone, he turns and glances at the picture of his boss on the wall behind him, is having a jolly good laugh? He leans forward suddenly. Now he's looking at me. I catch a glimpse of bloodshot eyes behind the thick glasses. Does it never occur to you that we might actually be here for your own good? That we might actually be trying to dash it to blazes to protect you? I shrug and stare through him as blankly as I can. The doctor leans back in his chair and glances up at the ceiling again. There's still so much we don't know about the virus. Where it came from, how it spread so jolly quickly. All we do know is that it mutates, without any sign or any warning, from animal to animal. He fixes me with his bleary gaze. To humans, to varmints one day, our best scientists are sure of it. It's not a question of if, but when. Do you understand me, boy? I shrug. I've heard the lecture so many times before. So, I'm going to ask you one more time. Why were you handling a varmint in the yard? Is there anything you would like to tell me? He waits. I try to speak, to tell him something, just any word, not what actually happened in the yard, just a simple word to keep him happy. I try so hard, but no word comes. My body sinks into the chair with the effort. Well? He waits. Nothing? Ah, well. What a shame. What a dashed pity. He stands and begins to pace up and down the room. So, young Janes, the son of the great Professor Janes, here it comes. Do you think that makes you different? Do you think that makes you better than anyone else, eh? He leans into my face and his whiskers brush my cheek. Do you think it makes you special? I look down at his big white toes in their sandals and think, you're pretty special yourself, Doctor. But he grabs my chin and twists it back up so I have to stare at him. Your dear father also thinks he's better, you see, than the rest of us. He laughs, although it sounds more like hiccups. Us less honourable scientists, he continues through the hiccupy laughs, doomed to spend our jolly old days working with wretched specimens such as yourself. I don't know why he keeps calling Dad an honourable scientist. He was just doing his job as a vet. A very good vet, mind, perhaps the best in the country, Mum said. He had the magic touch, that's what they called it. No animal too small, no disease too big, he always said. Animals in farms, animals from the house next door, animals on the other side of the world. Until the virus came. And all I am trying to jolly well do is keep my little delinquent charges safe and sound. He gives me a big smile, and it looks like his fraggly yellow teeth are running a competition to see which one can fall out of his mouth first. Which is why I have no choice, I'm afraid. I look at the shut door, at the picture of scowling Selwyn Stone. None of them offers any advice or any help as the doctor gives me my sentence. You touched a restricted insect. You know the rules. He presses a button under the desk and the door slides open to reveal 2 wardens in the corridor, waiting for me. Take him back to his room, says Dr. Fredericks with a wave of his hand. Quarantined for 7 days. Total isolation. Chapter 4 tomorrow. Thank you.